Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Homestead Heart. And today we are going to be canning some ground turkey. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So before we get started, make sure if you're new to canning, you'll want to get your canning jars. I'm using 1.5 size jars because I'm canning meat. And for me, my preference is just the 1.5. I don't know why, but well, it's just perfect size for us, okay? So that's why I use the 1.5. The pints are too small, the quarts is too much. So the 1.5 is perfect for us, okay? Now, so make sure you get your jars, okay? And you also want to make sure you have I have my lids. They're not sitting in hot water, but they are sitting in lukewarm water. I still just soak them a bit to kind of loosen up that rubber on the lids. I still do that. So I have them sitting there. Again, my jars are sitting inside of the oven, 235 degrees from my oven. And I have all of my bands sitting over here on the counter. I'm going to get me a little bit of vinegar to use to clean the rim of my jars. And I have my pressure canner sitting here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this on low, just so that water can start to heat up because that water is cold. And I'm getting ready to make some hot product. So I'm going to put hot product in hot jars, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, this is 6 pounds. And I'm just going to start putting it in the pan. All right, I'm going to turn this back up to a medium heat. Okay, and then I'm just going to start cooking this down. Now, got that turned up a bit. And you notice I'm not putting all this in here at one time, okay? We don't want to do that. We ain't going to overload the pan. But that's enough right there. All right, you all, this is cooking. As you see, it has a lot of water in it. What I love about this lean ground turkey is more water than fat. But I'm just going to cook this enough to where it browns just a bit. Now, while this is cooking, turn that fire up a little bit, I'm going to season this pan. I'm not going to season the jar. I'm going to season the product, okay? And I'm putting very minimal seasoning in here. This is 1/4 of a teaspoon. So I'm going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground white pepper. I'm adding 1/4 of a teaspoon of smoked paprika. And I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Okay, y'all know how I feel about my garlic powder and my onion and stuff. And I'm also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt to this, okay? So this is not seasoned heavily. It's very lightly seasoned. And I'm going to give that a stir. Now you can even add some onion to this, but I'm not going to cut up any onion right now. I'm going to go ahead and just get this cooked down a bit. Not a lot, just a bit. It's only going to be maybe like a third of the way done, but that's it. Okay, almost there. As you can see, it's still a little pink. Maybe you can see now. It's still a little pink. But that's okay. That's exactly where I want it. Where it's just about done. But, I mean, where it's cooking and it's turning brown and it still has a little pink in it. So I'm going to turn my fire off on that, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and sit this. My jar heating up? Yeah, my pots are getting warm. So I'm going to go ahead and get this jarred up and get this in the canner, and then I'm going to start on my next batch. All right, so I've taken out 3 hot jars. I have my funnel here. And I have my spoon that has slots or holes in it. Because that's what I want. I don't want all that extra liquid in there. And now I'm just going to spoon this in, okay? I'm just spooning it in. Yeah. Draining off some of that liquid. I mean, I'm not trying to get it bone dry, but I do want the majority of it off of there. Okay. Now, hopefully you got your canning tools, okay? That comes with that little jar lifter, your debubbler. See that? I don't have a debubbler. I don't know where my debubbler is, but I use this right here, okay? So now, just going to use this to mash this down in the jar. Yep. Mash that down in the jar. And I'm going to give this a 1-inch headspace so I could get just a little more in this jar. Okay? Yeah, there we go. All right. Now, I'm going to move on to the next jar. Okay, yeah, that's hot. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get this put into the jar, draining off some of that liquid. And like I said, this is not completely done. This is barely half done. And this is not going to be enough to fill that jar. It might be, I don't know, we'll see. Taking off some of that liquid. I don't know, y'all. Looking like I might make it. Let's see. Almost. Mash that down in there like so. See if I can scrape the bottom. Okay. Now, once I've got all this in, into my jars there. Okay, so I got my paper towel. I'm dipping it in some white vinegar. I am going to wipe the rims of my jars just to make sure no fat got on these rims, okay? I'm going to wipe them good. Let's wipe them really good. This one might have a little bit. Now I'm going to use my magnet, which also comes in your little canning tool. And I'm going to take one of the lids out of my water over there. And I'm putting lids on top of my jars. And then I'm going to grab a couple of bands. And I'm going to put these on fingertip tight, okay? And that's it. And in the pressure canner, these are going to go. See that? That's what that looks like. In the pressure canner, it's going. Getting ready to start on the next batch. My skillet is hot. I've drained that liquid. Get that in the pan. Y'all, it's been raining most of the day, so this is like a great day to be inside canning. Still trying to deal with this cough, y'all. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. All right, so now while that's heating up, I'm going to move this out of the way. Grab my spices. Did y'all know I was a spice girl? Okay. Anyway, now, I am going to go ahead now and add my half teaspoon of white pepper. My quarter teaspoon of white pepper. Quarter of a teaspoon of white pepper. I'm going to add a quarter of a teaspoon of smoked paprika. I love smoked paprika. It just smells so good. And it makes food taste so good in ground turkey. If y'all have never tried smoked paprika, you should. Okay, now I'm switching over to my half teaspoon here. And I'm going to put in a nice half teaspoon, maybe a whole one, of garlic powder. And a nice half teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay, now I'm going to give this a stir and get those spices all up through there. Because we're only cooking this barely halfway done, okay? It's still going to be somewhat pink. It'll be very faint though. Do you all see how that looks? It's got a lot of water in it, but it's not completely done. It's very pink, okay? But that's it. That's all I want. I just don't want to see red. So now that I don't see red anymore, I just see pink. I'm going to turn off my fire, get my jars out of the oven, and get these inside of the jars. Okay, so now we're just going to get the meat in the jars. Again, I'm using my slotted spoon. Going to get that in. Y'all, this is real simple, right? No stress, no stress. Canning should be enjoyable, okay? And this is no stress. It's very enjoyable. I can do it. You can do it too. Push that down a bit. I'm going to put just a crumb or two in there. Now, and that's going to do it for that jar. I'll set that out of the way. Woo! Bring that one closer. And start funneling it in. Okay. Give that a little pat down. Okay, and it could probably hold just a spoon, barely. And that's it. So now, that's it. I'm going to grab my paper towel along with my white vinegar. And I am going to clean the rims of my jars really good. Now, if you notice, I'm not adding any liquid to this jar. This turkey is producing enough of its own. It'll continue to produce it as long as it's cooking. I'm going to go ahead and grab me a lid or two. And you know what else, y'all, if y'all are new to canning, make sure that if you have your lids sitting in some water, make sure that you don't accidentally grab two. And because they will get stuck together and you'll have two on here and not even know it. So just make sure you don't have but one lid, okay? Now I'm going to grab my rings and get those on. Fingertip tight, y'all. Don't crank down on these jars. And I'm going to grab them and get them inside of my pressure canner. Now, my ground turkey is in the canner. That was only 4 1.5 pint sized jars for 6 pounds. So what I'm going to do, I have some more chicken breast that I'm canning up, and I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to go ahead and get it in my skillet. Whoops. Now remember the last time I did raw pack, but this time I can't put cold chicken in a hot pot. So I'm going to have to put some heat on this, okay? So I'm just going to slightly cook it down a little bit, just like I did the ground turkey, okay? And also, I'm also going to season this and add half teaspoon of salt. Well, I'm actually going to add a teaspoon of salt because this is a lot of turkey right here. I'm going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder to this. I'm going to add a teaspoon of smoked paprika. And a half teaspoon of white pepper. Just because I don't want it to be too spicy. You never know who's going to be eating it, right? So I'm going to go ahead now. Just give this a stir. And my fire's down low, medium low. So I'm just going to get all of this seasoning all over all of my ground turkey. Now, you know how when you saute turkey, how it starts to turn white on the outside? Once my turkey looks like that all over, it won't be done, but once it looks like that all over, then I'm going to take it and start adding it to my jars. And I'm having to do it in batches because I got a lot of turkey. All right, so this is how this is looking. As you can see, it's not done by no stretch of the imagination. It's not done, but as it sautés a bit, it turns white on the outside, right? And that's really all I want to see happen. Okay, so I'm going to give this just another minute or so. Right? It ain't got to be fancy, y'all. Nothing complicated, okay? I'm just doing this lightly, okay? That's it. It's real simple. All right, and I'm going to stop right there, turn my fire off, and we're going to get it in the jars. All right, y'all. Let's get it in the jars. Simple as this. And you still have to leave that 1-inch headspace, okay? Okay. Might be able to get a couple more pieces down in there. Perfect. Move that to the side. Grab this one. And start filling it. Don't cook this all the way, okay? You want some liquid to be left in here, because we're not adding any, okay? Let's just see where we are. Whoops. Hot. Grab this and I'm going to tamp it down a bit, because we can easily make some more space just by tamping it down. See how far down that went? So I'm going to add these remaining pieces to this jar. And the last little bits to this one. And that went perfect. Perfect. Now I'm going to grab my vinegar. And as my baby used to say when she was little, my paprika. And wipe my rims really good. We don't want any grease or oil on this, no fat, okay? So I'm wiping them really good with that vinegar, because that vinegar will cut that fat. And then I'm going to grab my handy dandy magnet. Grab me a lid, get it on. Grab me a lid, get it on. Couple of bands. And you will see this chicken is going to produce some more liquid, okay? And this is what it looks like. In fact, it already has liquid settling in the bottom, but that's what that looks like. And I'm going to get this in the canner. All right. All the jars in the canner. I'm going to go ahead and pour my vinegar down in the water. And now I'm going to get the lid on. Okay? Now, if you're new to canning, then always make sure that if you have a Presto pressure canner, that is, I have a Presto pressure canner. I think mine is a 32 quart, and it is the dial gauge right here, okay? So now this right here, make sure that little nipple can open, up and down with no problem. Make sure you can see through that vent pipe. Make sure no food or nothing is obstructing that, because that needs to be clear. And we are going to go ahead and get this on and seal this closed. Now, I'm going to crank up the heat on this, okay? I'm going to put this on high heat, because this needs to start to build up pressure. Once it starts to build up pressure, it's going to start venting, which is pushing out a steady flow of steam. But I'm going to show you that step, especially for all of my newbies. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. We're not there yet. So this has to heat up. It has to get really, really hot. And when that happens, it's going to start forcing air up out of the canner. And that's going to be the next step that I show you. Y'all stay tuned. All right, you all, so now this is venting. A steady flow of steam is coming out of this, okay? Steady flow of steam coming out of this vent pipe. And we're going to set a timer on this for 10 minutes. It has to vent like this, steady flow of steam, 10 full minutes, okay? It can't be sputtering. It's got to be steady, all right? And then we're going to set this timer for 10 minutes, and after that, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So this has been venting now for 10 full minutes. The timer is about to go off. This right here is my pressure regulator that goes over the vent pipe. So if you have a Presto canner like mine with the dial gauge on it, then you'll have a pressure regulator. And after this vents for 10 minutes, this goes on top of the vent pipe, okay? All right, we're just gonna slide it over the top. All right, now that is gonna sit there, and this canner is gonna build up from my altitude. It's gonna be, from my altitude, it's gonna be 10 pounds of pressure from my altitude, okay? So you'll know what your altitude is, and then you'll know how to determine how many pounds of pressure you need to can at. If you get that ball guide to canning, I think it has a reference there as well, okay? But you do have to look that up for yourself because your altitude is not going to be the same as mine, perhaps. So you want to know what yours is, okay? Now, my pressure canner is going to build up to 10 pounds of pressure. When that happens, I'm canning 1.5 size jars of meat. 1.5 and quart size jars of meat will process for 90 minutes, okay? So when this gets to 10 pounds of pressure, I'm going to gradually reduce my heat to make sure this stays between 10 and 11 pounds of pressure, and I'll keep my eye on it, but I'm going to start my timer for 90 minutes once it gets to 10 pounds. You do not want your canner to fall below where you need to be processing at, or you will have to start that process in time all over again, okay? So I am at 7 pounds of pressure. When I get to 10, I'm going to reduce my heat, start my timer, okay? So what will happen is after this is canned for 90 minutes, I will bring you all back. We will get them out of the canner together, and we will look at our finished product. So y'all stay tuned. It's another day, and the food is done, been done. It finished last night well after about 10:30, and it still had a lot of pressure built up in the canner, so I wasn't going to wait up all night for that pressure to go down so I could take the jars out to finish the video. But I'm just going to show you that they're done. Now, just for all of our newbies when it comes to canning, when your timer is done, once you've processed your product, what you will do is just turn the fire off when the time is done. But you still won't bother your canner because the pressure gauge will still be up. So before you touch the canner, even though it's done on the inside, before you touch the canner, you're going to want to wait until that nipple falls down in the back and until your dial gauge, if you have a canner like mine, is down to 0. And that will let you know that there's no pressure in the canner, okay? And when that's done, you can take off the little gauge, the little pressure regulator. You can open up your canner, take the lid off, and then these are ready to come out of the canner. Now my jars are cool because they've been sitting here all night long, so I'm just going to reach in and pull them out, and put them on the counter. All right, so this is one of the chicken right here. Look at how it dropped down there. This is another one. Once that water off. Look at the liquid inside. Now the rings are loose, but the jar is sealed. Somebody asked me about the rings the rings are loose when they take them out of the canner, that's perfectly fine. You don't, but when you bring them out of the canner, leave the ring on, okay? Leave it on for 24 hours, okay? Because your jars are still hot, so you don't want to bother it. But the next day, you can take them off. Your jar should be sealed. And then you can write the date and what's the product that's in the jar on the lid, or put it on one of those little cute labels and put it on your jar and put them in your food storage. So it's normal for the lids to be a little bit loose, okay? So I'm going to get the chicken out. Now remember, a lot of these I did not put any liquid in, but look, it's got liquid in them, okay? Now this is my ground turkey. See how beautiful that looks? All right. And that is the finished product. The ground turkey and my chicken breast. That's it. So before I end the video, I'm going to show you something. So now, this is the ground turkey that I sauteed. I'm not ground turkey. Chicken breast that I sauteed. This is the one that was raw pack, where I just put the raw chicken in and canned it. So you see the difference between the two? Yeah, see the difference? So you can decide which one you want to do. Do you want to saute it a bit? Or do you just want to raw pack it in? It's up to you, right? So yeah, but this was my raw pack right here. So yeah, that's going to do it for today, you all, for how to can ground turkey. And of course, I threw in some chicken breast because I didn't want to have this 4 jars sitting in my canner. But that's going to do it. That's it. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. All right? So thank you all so much for watching Homestead Heart. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you, and I'll see you in the next video.